Welcome to episode 14 of the ADV podcast. We're talking about China's Opium War revenge today.
It's not like Revenge of the Sith, right?
No.
Actually, that was Return... No, Revenge of the Sith was a movie, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, kind of. China's kind of the Sith, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
But we have a few things to go through today. Most importantly, we're going to talk about the impact of fentanyl in America and how it's coming from China. Not completely blaming China for this whole addiction thing. We're not going to be going into the actual addiction problem.
Yes, because I have a problem with that too.
Right, of course. But we're going to be mostly talking about the broken promises that the CCP has made and actually how it affects other companies as well, including TikTok, which is also in today's docket.
Absolutely. So I guess we're going to start out with what's new. So let's hit that. What's new, as you know, is when we talk about new things that happen in China.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the first thing we got in what's new is maybe you can explain to us what's happening behind us with this young gentleman. What is he about to do?
We don't play it yet.
Okay.
We can get some build up in the chat here. What do you think is gonna happen in this clip? Make everyone nervous. So before we roll this clip, there's been a lot of talk about the whole mask ban in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on this before, but face masks are commonplace in Taiwan and in Hong Kong.
Japan too.
In Japan. Number one, to stop the spread of illness. So if there's a cold or a flu going around, people kind of have the morality in their hearts to be like, I don't want to spread this.
Sure.
Or I don't want to catch it.
Yeah,
right?
don't want to catch it.
Number two, a lot of scooter travel in Taiwan means that they don't want to breathe in exhaust fumes.
Sure, it helps
like
with that.
Helps with that.
Number three is if a woman is self-conscious about her looks.
Yeah.
She'll wear that if she's got bad teeth.
If she doesn't want to wear makeup that day.
Yeah, doesn't want to wear makeup. I've heard that a lot before.
I didn't hear it. That was like some of my co-teachers in Taiwan used to do that all the time. They even admitted it.
Yeah, of course.
But the whole mask ban means that people can be identified in the protests. Mm-hmm. That's what China wants, obviously. Right?
Yeah, so they can dox them and they can arrest them and things like that. So
now, Hong Kong's always been very creative.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to sit on their laurels and be like, you know what? They got us, right?
Sure.
They've been putting out hilarious ways to thwart the cameras and things like
using
this.
your hair to block your face.
And they're having a laugh about it.
Sure.
And this is the latest incarnation.
Yeah, so let's take a look.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, the greatest thing about this to me, I don't know how effective this would be because I don't think you can see very well.
Yeah.
But if you think about this, imagine if this news leaked. I hope Xi Jinping saw this, is my point. What would he think of this?
Yeah, exactly.
It's brilliant. I kind of want one of those.
It's funny. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, let's move on to our next little thing.
Sure.
Okay. Now, because of what's been going on in Hong Kong, all the people that were kind of fighting for the idea of reunification in Taiwan with mainland China have changed their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because China's been promising this one country, two systems idea. If you come back to join China, we'll let you carry on being the way you are. But that's what they promised Hong Kong.
Right, and we're talking about things like a judicial system, your own rule of law.
Yeah, your own laws.
Democracy.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, the way you run your economy, healthcare, everything.
Yeah, open internet, all that kind of stuff. But guess what? People can see what's been happening in Hong Kong, how all of those so-called promises and freedoms have been eroded away bit by bit. And now it's got to a point where they're not even pretending to go along with this one country, two systems thing. They're just like, no, you must do this, you must do that.
Amongst the older generation of people in Taiwan, when the Kuomintang was in power before Tsai Ing-wen, the idea of reunification wasn't really a reality, but it was one of those things where we're not going to reunify under the Communist Party of China, but if some changes happen there, we're more open to that idea.
Sure.
So all the people that you're referring to changing their mind, I mean, this has bolstered her support. She was actually down in the polls before all this stuff happened, and now everyone's like, no.
Yeah.
We're not. Look at Hong Kong; it's on fire.
Sure.
You know.
So now, what did they promise? They promised to fully respect Taiwan's way of life.
I think they should have waited until some of this news calmed down before throwing this out there, because everyone's it's a meme.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
It is. So, unfortunately, we can see from history and just the way people behave, the way the CCP is behaving towards Hong Kong and everyone, to be honest. All the promises in the trade war, the Belt and Road, all of this kind of thing. Anything that China actually says and promises that they will do and follow through with is a bunch of BS. So far, and we're going to talk about that more in this episode, but almost every single promise that China makes, they procrastinate or they find a reason to renege on that promise. We're going to talk about that a little bit.
It's to make it super simple and highlight what we're talking about. It's always China first.
Yeah.
As every country is.
Sure.
You know, your own self-interests are the most important thing.
Yeah.
But it's to the point where almost every single governmental promise is broken in favor of China first.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to talk about.
Exactly. All right. Let's see what's coming up next over here. You know, we do have to talk about this whole TikTok situation. How about you lead off with it? Because I know you watch TikTok. I don't.
Right. Originally, I was interested in TikTok because I was on Douyin.
Yeah,
I was on Kuaishou.
Yeah.
I was on all the Chinese versions of these apps. We've said this a million times, say it again. TikTok is a Chinese-owned app.
Sure.
It is called Douyin in China. For the very few percentage of people that have never heard of TikTok, it's basically a short-form video sharing
It's like
website.
Vine.
It's kind of like the resurgence of Vine.
Yes.
There's memes and trends that go through, and those get to the front page, and then they disappear, and more people get popular. It's very indicative of today's, like, I'm not going to watch a 20-minute YouTube video. What I'm going to do is get on TikTok and, you know, chew bubblegum in my brain for 10 seconds.
Sure.
Move on to the next thing. I didn't expect TikTok to be so wildly popular, but the reason it happened was Douyin was originally called Musical.ly here in America.
Yeah.
And it was quite popular, but it was mostly popular amongst like 12-year-old girls, right? Because everyone with that name made it synonymous with like karaoke or like, oh, I'm going to lip sync to a song, which only has a limited appeal. TikTok, when they switched their name, now it's just become, like you said, Vine. It's short form video. Anyone can do it. There's 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds on there, you know? So it's one of the most downloaded and used apps. You guys have probably seen. If you don't use it, you still see ads for it everywhere, right? Sure. Now, TikTok is under fire. Big time. Super hardcore. Your mug statement is, I don't need Google. My husband knows everything. You can probably assume that belongs to one of our wives. However, it is a very nice sized mug to hold a lot of coffee because we drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, to get back into TikTok. This is the problem. So this senator dude, right, James Langford, you can read what he said.
So TikTok is a Chinese-owned video platform that is harvesting Americans' data and poses a risk to national security, just like the face swap deepfake app. We should be careful when using apps that have been developed by state-owned Chinese tech firms to protect our personal privacy.
Thank you. You look much more like a politician than I do, so that worked out really well.
Sure.
I don't think he's a British accent, though.
Yeah, neither do I, really.
No. Yes, you... Oh, what is it then?
It's a kind of a mixed bag.
It's pretty British. Anyway, long story short, this dude, don't know anything about him. Yeah. He's obviously, putting the idea out there that this wildly popular app in America needs to be scrutinized because at the end of the day, it's still a Chinese-owned company. I want you to explain to people why that matters so much no matter what promise any company makes.
Every single company is beholden to the CCP. It's part of law in China that if you are a Chinese company, you must answer to the CCP. And if the CCP demands that you do XYZ for national security, you cannot refuse them. It's not like in the States where Apple... Remember there was that thing where there was like a terrorist's phone and they found a terrorist's iPhone. And the FBI and everyone was asking Apple to unlock it. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that because it goes against our privacy or whatever. Yeah. That was their system. And they refused because they're a bunch of pricks. And we know Apple just capitulate to China, but not to their own country.
Sure.
Anyway, the thing is, they refused and they stuck to their so-called values because they can. You can tell the US government no. But in China, you can't. If the Chinese government, the CCP, comes to your company, TikTok, and they're like, we want access to that phone's microphone and camera that app is on of that person.
I mean, it's already accessing those, right?
They have to say yes.
Right.
They cannot say no.
And here's the thing, is TikTok actually put out a PR statement, right? Saying, doesn't matter where the app is, we only adhere to local laws. And I want this to be really clear. I think this is where we can actually chime in about this.
Okay.
Tencent... Doesn't matter what Chinese company you're talking about, Huawei, they can have the most moral, beautiful angels running the company. Obviously they don't, but they could, right? Everyone that works there actually believes in freedom of speech. They can have all their own ideals, right? It doesn't matter because TikTok said, listen, if we're in Germany, we have to abide by German laws. We do not send data back to China. Same thing in America. That doesn't make sense because all you have to do is realize that every single company registered in China, like you said, has to bow down and talk to the Chinese government.
So all the data goes through their servers.
Right, it's in their servers.
they have control over all of that data. It doesn't matter if that server is sitting in your country. The Chinese government still has access to that data.
Right. So a lot of people were getting down on this because on this guy, again, I don't know his affiliation or whatever, but a lot of people are getting down on him, fans of TikTok, saying, listen, but TikTok said, right?
Yeah.
Oh, great proof. TikTok said.
It means nothing. Just like all the promises from the CCP.
Right.
They're just there to kind of throw up a smoke screen. They make a promise to make people back off. They're like, they're going to be good to their word. Just because your country and your government usually sticks to its promises, or if your culture sticks to its promises, does not mean that the CCP they know how to take advantage of that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This goes so much deeper than that, but the reason I wanted to bring up the TikTok example is because people will understand, having not been to China, they'll understand this, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this a million times, but in China, when a problem becomes so big, even domestically, this is not just for foreign stuff, when a problem becomes so big domestically, they don't do anything about it until the last minute, when it's become too outrageous, and then they go crazy, like motorcycle bans and stuff. Sure. Okay, it's become such a big problem, no one does anything, on paper. Motorcycles are illegal, doesn't do anything. Bam! Billion cops are ripping keys out, smash the bikes.
Yeah, exactly, it goes insane.
That's how China works.
Anyway, this is going to be tied into everything we're talking about in this episode. Do we have anything else in the What's New? Because there is something we have to talk about that we talked about last week. Just yes, of course.
Yes. Talk a little bit about gaming in China, maybe. Set the stage.
Well, the reason why Blizzard, as we all know, has bent over to China and is banning anyone who says anything pro Hong Kong or anything like that from their games and all. Everybody knows about that by now, I think. I mean, BlizzCon that happened just recently, they had people out there with the free Hong Kong stuff and all that. Was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But the reason is because China has a massive gaming market. Now, when I first got to China in 2006, I was kind of blown away because the internet cafe had died. Okay, the internet cafe was not a thing anymore in the West. Everybody has their own internet.
Oh, that was like early 2000s, right?
Yeah. So the reason why the internet cafes are still big in China and are still big today is because, first of all, most households don't actually have a computer. Everyone has mobile phones to access the internet, okay? But most households don't have a powerful gaming computer, right? So when kids want to go play games, they go to these internet cafes. First of all, they're super, super cheap. And second of all, it allows them to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Because one thing you don't realize about China, if you haven't lived there, is that families all live together. So, you will have your grandparents, you'll have your parents, and yourself in this tiny apartment, usually a 2-bedroom, sometimes a 1-bedroom, if you're rich, like a 3-bedroom apartment. So it's crowded. You got bloody old people all around the place throwing their vegetables on the floor or whatever they do. You've got your parents on your back. You want to get out of the house. Of course. You want to play games. Your parents won't let you play games at home. Your grandparents are giving you crap about drinking hot water, whatever. So what do you need to do? You go to the internet cafe. It's like 5 RMB for 3 hours, which is like less than a US
People
dollars.
sleep there because of that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And they've even got these like big chairs that can lean back and stuff. And you go there, people are sleeping there. They've got instant noodles that you can order at the front, and they'll make it for you. Yeah, people actually do.
I don't know why I laughed about that.
No, but insane. I've spent some time in those internet cafes, especially in the beginning, because it was my only way to get internet. And it's an interesting setup. So what you do is you've got banks of computers. You've got a system that every time the computer's switched off, it like wipes the hard drive. You turn it back on, it basically rebuilds it using like Norton Ghost or whatever, and creates a whole new image. But you've got access to thousands of movies on their network, pirated movies, all the music you can think of, and all the online games. And they range from stupid QQ games, which are kind of like Tetris or
like little Mario Kart clones.
Or Dance Revolution type crap that you play online, all the way up to like the World of Warcraft and all the sort of more intensive modern games like Fortnite and all that. The ones that aren't banned in China anyway, right? The thing is, China has a massive problem with video game addiction because of this. You get, like you said, you get people that go in there, they sit down, they play, and they die, okay? Or they play and they don't go to school and their parents can't find them, and there's all this crap. So because of this massive video game addiction, you've got a massive market for video games in China. Millions upon millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of kids spending their days in these internet cafes, their nights, their evenings. So a company like Blizzard obviously wants a chunk of that market. even though in China piracy is big and all that kind of stuff, there's still enough people that you can still make money.
If you have a marginal percentage, it's still worth
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So that's why they're willing to bend over backwards and throw their ethics out the window to please China, right? But this is probably going to hurt their bottom line. What do you think?
Yeah. Another thing I just want to add on about the Wangba, the internet cafe culture. It's an escape, like you said, from home, because Chinese homes are very, very regimented.
Yeah.
So you see these kids, they get to go smoke cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
Of course they all smoke cigarettes, but they can't do it at home.
Yeah.
They can meet girls there, right? They can meet other kind of like people that like to ditch school, like you said. A lot of illicit activities go on in these kind of places too. Yeah. But anyway, the new rule that China set up says 90 minutes a day until 10 p.m. So this is the internet cafe culture regulation now. Mm-hmm. So they'll have to comply to this. You only get to play 90 minutes a day. You got to get cut off at 10 p.m. unless you're over 18.
Sure.
Right. And before we just sound like we're crapping on China right now. South Korea also put on restrictions for students. This does happen elsewhere. But what's going to happen now, and this is one of the bigger things, this is what's really pissing off a lot of game companies, is that they're going to require using your real ID and real name for any online purchases within games.
Sure.
And they're limiting to people to about $50 a month. And some of these guys would spend thousands, right? Like, rich people do it, poor people do it, they'll go into debt because of it, right?
Sure.
These really addicting, attributes of these games.
Yeah.
So you have all these game companies now that are like, holy crap, the government like that can impose like an economic restriction on a huge chunk of the economy, right? The tech economy.
Where are they making their money?
Like So you see Western companies like Blizzard that are really upset, and then you also see Chinese domestic game companies really upset about this too.
You know, this internet like addiction thing has been a big problem in China for a long time. Not that long ago, they still have them, but not as much. They used to have these like internet addiction camps where they'd use shock therapy and stuff to try and get the kids off the games.
They still have those.
Yeah, I know, but it's not as severe as it used to be. Quite a few years ago already, they started implementing this law where if you went to an internet cafe, when you like buy your time, you have to register with your real ID card so that they can see who you are and like how long you're spending and what you're doing and keep track of your activities. Number one, I guess, because they want to curb it a little bit, but number two, because if someone leaves a post, anti-government post online on a forum,
lot of this stuff happened there.
Yeah, because it's people thought they were free and away from the scrutiny in their little Wangba, in their little internet cafe hole somewhere they could just do what they want. But now your real ID is now attached to every post you make online and things like that. So that's something they were doing to combat this.
Interesting little aside. When I went to film my internet cafe culture video for Laudi 6, when I went in there, the boss was super keen and let me do whatever. Typical, like, nice Chinese dude, right? Yeah. I still wasn't allowed to log on because I can't use my ID. I don't have a Chinese ID. He, thankfully, borrowed some other people so we could actually try stuff out. But it was really interesting. They didn't have any measures for, to get around it unless you just use someone else's ID to log in.
You went to a really nice one,
actually. It was a super swank one.
Because they're usually disgusting.
Dude, I've been to ones in Baotou, Inner Mongolia.
Sure.
There's dens of sin. There's drugs. There's everything.
It's really weird. Yeah. Anyway, so now I think Blizzard's going to pay a little bit of a price because they're losing their morals. They're letting go of their morals. This goes for any company that deals with China. They're losing their morals and their, all that. And now they're going to lose a lot of their so-called market that they sold their souls for in the first place.
Don't you hate when people are like, I told you so, the attitude? But we've said this so many times. And I just want people to you got to understand China.
Yeah, exactly.
Are these companies so dumb that they don't think the Chinese government isn't going to go back on their word or just hammer ban them outright? Because they do this all the time. It's a massive risk to do business with China.
Yeah,
you could be done tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Anyway, we have to talk about something that we talked about last episode.
Yeah, we'll do a retraction. Yeah.
Well, it's not not a retraction. Remember, we talked about the 39 dead people in the container truck, the lorry in the UK.
Yep.
And at the time, it was said they were Chinese citizens. Do you know why? Turns out they're not. They're Vietnamese.
And I oop.
Yeah, but you know why?
Flask. Mm-hmm.
Because why?
Because they had Chinese passports.
They all had fraudulent Chinese passports. Do you know why they had fraudulent Chinese passports?
Well, from personal experience, I know that human trafficking between Vietnam and China is huge, and the gangs that run it are typically run out of mainland China.
Yes, so Chinese smuggling mafia, basically, snakeheads as they call them. They're the ones that organized this trip. They're the ones who are responsible for the death of those 39 Vietnamese people.
And devil's advocate, I'm gonna punch the devil's advocate in the face right here. Do you know why?
Why?
Because people will say, okay, it's criminal activity. That blame lies on no one. Bullshit. Mm-hmm. Because I met the PLA snakeheads on the Vietnamese border in China doing that exact same thing.
How is it that they get passports?
Yeah, they obviously
without government connections.
Come on. I mean, they literally they weren't even hiding it when they were radioing people across the river when I was there. I was so spooked.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so that's that. The people that they found in the truck were Vietnamese with fake Chinese passports supplied to them by Chinese human trafficking gangs. Okay, let's move on to our main thing today, which of course...
Well, no, we need to do...
Oh, we've got some super chats. Okay, how about you bring up some super chat questions?
You're back to forgetting.
It's what I do.
It's age, right?
Yeah.
42 Fab Metal Fabrication and Signage. First off, big friend of ours.
Yeah.
So subscribe to his channel if you're interested in metal fabrication.
Yeah, I got a video about that.
I'll be right back.
Okay, you be right back then.
He actually...
Yeah.
He actually made this. This is
yes,
my Loud 86 logo. You see on my sweatshirt? He actually fabricated this. That was lasers, right? He made a video about that.
CNC cutting machine.
Yeah, really cool stuff.
Super
anyway, he says, but I can use Google Rewards on Super Chat. Ha! He is saying that our video is demonetized. Don't want to rub that in. I'm so sick of people talking about like, oh, my video is being targeted for demonetization. Happens to everyone.
It does. It doesn't matter if you're pro-China, anti-China, neutral, something in between. If you love bunnies, hate rabbits, it doesn't matter. Same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
YouTube's being incredibly sensitive these days because they're just, I don't know, tiptoeing around everything. They don't want advertisers to get spooked away because there's, these very unscrupulous companies like the Wall Street Journal or something, and they'll specifically try to find someone saying something bad and having an advert from someone on there, and then they'll go to that company and show them this, and then they don't want to be on YouTube anymore. So YouTube's being very careful because I can't blame them. The entire platform could collapse.
Sure.
So they have to be careful. Anyway, we probably will be demonetized. Our previous one was. That's life.
Almost half of them have been demonetized. Yeah. Dion Chapman, thank you very much, man. Yay, got my motorcycle learners. Just need a bike to practice on. Oh, now. Yeah. If we are ever in the same place, we can ride. Yeah, dude congratulations.
Congratulations. It's now you have freedom. Take it easy, though. Don't be a squid. Yeah. Learn how to ride. And learn how to ride your own ride. It's very important when you start riding. Don't try to show off. Don't ride with like very experienced riders.
That's a big
because
mistake,
then you try to keep up with them. You've got to learn. You got to learn
for sure.
Anyway,
cool.
What do we got next?
We'll do one more.
One more, yeah.
Der Lanchende Vampire. How do you guys handle all the stuff you experience psychologically? I'd have severe traumas after watching people laughing at corpses, for example, or killers butchering nurses next door. Jayo. Like I mentioned this in my video yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry. You don't deal with it in the beginning. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, it was yesterday, sorry. Yeah. You don't deal with it at the time. You deal with it after being there and seeing it over and over and over again, right? It doesn't mean you come out of it being like, oh, I'm totally fine now. It really messes with your head. It does.
I deal with it differently because... I'd seen way worse in South Africa.
Sure.
I've seen people actually being brutally murdered, shot and burnt alive and stuff. I've seen the aftermath of that. My brother died when I was 13 and he was 7, so I'm used to death from an early age. I've had to deal with a lot. So for me, going to China, it didn't upset me. What really upset me was how society reacted.
That's the thing.
Seeing these things. In front of your face, to me, was just like, oh, that sucks, poor guy, that kind of thing. But at the same time, looking at how people behaved around me, that upset me a lot.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go on to our main thing.
Yes.
So today we are talking about Soft Power Hour again, which is our main segment where we talk about what the Chinese government's up to when it comes to trying to sway your ideas in their sneaky little ways to make you think that China's the best. Anyway. Let's see what's going on in Soft Power. We're going to start with this.
Fentanyl smugglers, 9 jailed in landmark U.S.-China operation. Now, I hate headlines like this.
Sure.
Why would you hate a headline like this?
Because it's fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it may be true, but it's very misleading as to what's going on here. But I think before we even get into that, let's just explain... what fentanyl is, for those who don't know what fentanyl is.
Yeah, I think most people know, but
Yeah, but you're like the chemist guy, So.
Yeah. I guess, in a way. I worked at a pharmacy, so...
You've always got pills in your pockets and stuff for headaches and caffeine pills and things. He's really good with chemicals and stuff, so...
People make fun of me until they need a headache pill.
Which
anyway. You've taken one. You've taken ibuprofen.
Well, like once in my life. Literally one time.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Anyway, okay.
Anyway, long story short.
Sure.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opiate. And it's 100 times more potent than pure heroin. Yeah. Most heroin you're going to buy is not pure anyway. So you imagine the purest of heroin, this is 100 times per the size, granule, we can say.
Sure.
Fentanyl is usually used in epidurals or like, what's it called? Like cancer patients that are going to die, right? Like stage 4 level stuff. My wife had fentanyl. My wife's a fentanyl user.
Okay.
Because she had an epidural for our babies, of course, right?
Sure.
So in the hospital setting, it's very controlled. It's very, anesthesiologist is using it, right?
Sure.
However, when it entered the illicit market, you now had a very, very, very cheap alternative to heroin.
Sure.
That's much more addictive, much more deadly, right? And in the situation of America, which is a powder keg for addiction, you had people that were getting off opiates or painkillers for minor injuries, not being able to afford heroin on the street because they don't want to get sick and die from their withdrawal, and then saying, oh my God, this is super cheap and really, really potent stuff. It's the perfect storm, right? And fentanyl overdoses have gone up 500% in the last 7 years. Right? It's 50,000 people a year. I
got to talk about this for a minute because, one thing about my videos about China is I like to discuss, the good and the bad. When things really get in my face and I don't like them, I talk about it. That's why everyone thinks that I'm negative China. And these days, I say this a lot, but admittedly, yes, because China's changed for the worse. And so that's why I talk about the things that bug me. And ever since I've been in America, one of the things that's bugged me the most is when you go downtown in any of the cities in California anyway that I've seen, Arizona too,
Arizona, tweakers.
Doesn't matter where you go. You see these zombies, okay? I'm not going to be polite. I know people like to always try to make excuses for the fact that these people are on the streets and big pharma got them addicted and, sure, there's definitely truth to some of these things, or you don't know what they've been through, they've had a tough life. Bullshit, okay? I know what a tough life is. And what's happening here is you've got people that are taking the easy way out, and they're basically out there on the streets, zombieing around, disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful, in front of children, out there being a piece of crap, selfish, horrible person in front of everyone. And when you look at them, they're scary, they're disgusting, they're zombies, okay? I don't care what caused that, but the fact that they're tolerated and allowed to do this out there in public actually pisses me off in a big way. You know what I mean? I just do not want to suffer these people. When you see them out there, I think, why are you not ashamed of yourself? Get your shit under control. Now, I know that drugs, especially things like heroin and all this, they're so addictive. They mess you up so badly mentally that you kind of get to a point where you're incapable of dealing with it.
Yeah.
You're just stuck. But these people are a direct result right now of the fentanyl coming in from China. What's going out there, because there's this cheap, easy supply of this crap coming in from China, that's why you see these guys on the side of the road.
Right.
You know what I mean? If that shit was cut off, it would reduce that. I mean,
you always had cases of addicts, like let's say a real piece of shit addict, zombies you're talking about. When they get sick and they need opiates, like they're on their last limbs. There were cases of, hospitals being robbed and things like this, but the majority of this stuff is coming from China. We know the main sources. So this is what happens. This is how fentanyl's entering, okay?
Yeah.
We know in China that money can buy you anything.
Yeah.
So if you're a supplier and you want to thwart government control, you can always do so. You know the right person. We just talked about human trafficking. It happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, it does.
There's a lot of stuff that slips through people's fingers in China. If you have money and you're a shipment dude and the chemical company's paying you to turn a blind eye and say, listen, they're not going to inspect this package, or you're going to say it's okay for shipment.
Yep.
They're going to ship it over, right?
Yeah.
15% of packages in the U.S. are not electronically tracked, right? So if you have that big of a window of opportunity to get drugs into America, huge profit margins, right?
Yeah.
400,000 chemical companies in China, right? A lot of them state-owned, right? most of them operate with very little scrutiny.
Yes.
Unless it starts affecting Chinese people, of course.
Even then, I mean, look at the fake vaccines and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
They just bribe the people that find out, and then it gets like swept under the rug.
Exactly. Unless it blows up so big, then they have to make heads roll, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, the other biggest way of getting fentanyl into America is through Mexican cartels. Sure. Surprise, surprise, right? The difference is when they ship this fentanyl through the mail, it's like 90% pure because it's coming straight from the factories.
Yeah.
When it's going through the cartels, it ends up being like 10% pure because profit margins are huge.
Yeah.
We can say indirectly the Chinese government is linked to cartel drug trade.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty much what's going on. And we have some interesting stats here as well.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, even before we continue with anything, okay, when you're in China, if you have smoked weed as a foreigner, local even, let's say you smoked weed 3 months before you went to China. You go to China, they raid the bars, which they're doing more and more, the foreign bars. They take a hair sample and they test you. If they find that you smoked weed months before coming to China, they will arrest you, detain you, fine you, deport you.
Right.
Okay? If you are by any chance caught with actual drugs on you, that's even worse. Now all of a sudden you're going to get a jail term. Okay? If they find out that you've got X amount of drugs, like a certain amount over, and it's a very small amount, then you will possibly get the death penalty. And it's happened. I mean, British citizens have been executed. South African citizens have been executed. Yeah. All over the world, you can find people that have come in there stupidly carrying marijuana or heroin or whatever it is, cocaine, any crap like that into China. They end up being executed.
Right.
There's a Canadian citizen on death row as well right now, ready to be executed. This happens a lot. Having anything to do with illicit drugs in China is incredibly severe. It's super illegal. The government makes a huge thing out of this. They're constantly executing drug dealers. They're constantly executing like drug manufacturers, things like that, of illicit drugs. That's what they do. However, these same drugs that are fully illegal and can get you killed in China, at the same time, the Chinese government makes them and exports them to the rest of the world. They've got massive marijuana farms because, especially nowadays with the legalization of marijuana and stuff in places like the US, Canada, etc., there's a big market. So what do? They set up massive marijuana farms. They make it all there and they ship it out because they can make money. So they should execute themselves. The frickin' government should execute themselves for dealing drugs.
That'd be an interesting court trial.
Frickin' CCP, Xi Jinping should execute himself for allowing fentanyl to not only be produced by state-owned chemical companies, but being shipped all over the world to make money for the Chinese economy. It made up something like 3% of the Chinese economy in 2016. These chemical drug exports.
And that's big.
It's billions.
Yeah. Billions and billions.
Billions and billions.
Maybe trillions.
Yeah, trillions. It's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So this is the big hypocrisy I wanted to talk about, is the fact that state-condoned illicit drug manufacture is allowed. So the government is allowed to deal drugs to the rest of the world. But if any foreigner or even a local person who's not government deals drugs in a small amount within China, they get executed. You know what I mean? So I want people to understand what we're dealing with here. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with this real hypocritical bullshit situation of the government. And recently, because of the trade wars, we've had a lot of promises from the CCP. Let's go through a couple of these promises.
Sorry, let's link this back to the headline, right?
Yeah. So, first of all, as we all know, Trump has taken a fairly hard line, the first president of the United States to actually call China up on some of its shenanigans. Okay? I'm not going to say Trump's perfect, but I think everybody can agree that at least this is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, it's bipartisan.
Yeah, it's bipartisan. It doesn't matter who you support. I think everyone agrees that China needs to be kind of put in line a little bit because they're taking advantage of the WTO, the UN, all of this stuff. Don't know why they're part of the UN, because of all the human rights atrocities going on.
Or the WTO.
Yeah, why are they part of the WTO as a developing country status, but they claim to be like the biggest economy, the second largest? It's all hypocritical crap, just like the drug thing. So anyway, they have promised to stop stealing intellectual property rights as part of this trade thing, or at least scale back on it. However, as we know from proof, this is not the case. There's been recent arrests of a U.S. naturalized citizens, Chinese natural, how do you call it? Ethnically Chinese U.S. naturalized citizens who've been caught being couriers for the MSS here, stealing state secrets, stealing intellectual property. Maybe you can tell us about the Navy guy.
Yeah, what was his name? Like Fan Yang?
Yeah, very recent.
Fan Yang was like, what did he come to America in 1999?
Yeah.
Became a citizen in 2006. And then he joined the Navy.
And then for some reason got given top secret clearance.
Right.
What kind of a government is going, what kind of a, I don't know, security organ do you have running over here? Because like I would not give somebody who's recently immigrated from China top secret clearance. It seems a bit ridiculous.
I mean, there's probably a lot we don't understand.
I really do hope that they have a better vetting process than that.
Sure.
But anyway, okay, so he became a Navy officer and he was very recently caught trying to smuggle out military inflatable rafts and motors and things like that, along with his wife and 2 other Chinese citizens who were living here in the States.
Sure.
So, I mean, this kind of stuff's happening. Intellectual property theft is still big.
Oh, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing for this guy, by the way, but the reason I think that he passed vetting was, I think we don't know this, but he didn't necessarily join the Navy thinking I'm going to become a Chinese spy.
Yeah.
What happens is the Chinese government offers very tantalizing packages for these people to make quick money, right?
Yeah.
And it's very tempting. I mean, I've had people in China that I know from Western countries get approached by Chinese military asking them for certain things, right, in return for money. None of them did that.
Sure.
But you can see how tempting it would be for someone like this. You know what I mean?
No, the reason I'm even mentioning these spy things or these recent attempts to steal, and not only recent attempts, look at the new Black Hawk helicopter knockoff that we showed last time, right? Yeah. They literally took the US Black Hawk helicopter and the new Chinese helicopter is the Black Hawk helicopter.
Right, so these promises of curbing
intellectual property
theft. Oh, and then look at our new helicopter. It's the same, except it looks worse.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it'll last as long. Anyway, that's the thing. So that's a promise that's obviously broken and keeps getting broken. And it's kind of interesting how China breaks these promises. Is they'll make a promise, but then they usually, when they get caught out breaking the promise, they'll find a reason why. They'll be like, oh, you said something that hurt the feelings of the Chinese people, so we're justified in breaking that promise. Let's look at what else they've been told that they will stop doing. Trade secret theft. Obviously not. Forced technology transfers. Well, we just talked about the whole TikTok thing, right?
I think this was spurned by the whole Huawei controversy. I think there was like a glimmer of hope that China's going to be like, Huawei is going to be allowed into America if we make these promises.
Yeah.
Clearly, none of them have been honored, right?
Yeah.
We have not seen a slowdown of forced technology transfers. Every single day, people were finding backdoors in apps, in tech, and things they order from China, you know?
Well, it's also companies that, the whole thing is companies that set up shop in China are being forced to hand over their technology in order to have a cut of the Chinese market. And that's what's been happening a lot.
Right.
And you can also see all sorts of crap like Apple capitulating with its app store and having to remove apps and do this. And it's basically a bunch of crap. Just deal with things being copied and knocked off. And that's just still happening. Okay, what else? Access to financial services and currency manipulation. They're going to scale back on that. Well, have they?
No.
China blocks off its stock market to the rest of the world. If you're a foreigner, you're not allowed to invest in the Chinese stock market. I found that out when the stock market crashed in China and everybody started to blame foreigners for the crash until it came out that only like 1% of the entire Chinese stock market has any kind of foreign ownership.
Well, to be fair, anyone in China that invests in the Chinese stock market doesn't do so unless they have insider trading info anyway.
Sure.
It's a huge farce.
Yeah.
You know.
As a foreigner, you are not allowed to get your money out of China. It's incredibly hard.
Especially now.
Yeah, if you have money in RMB in China, first of all, you're not allowed to change it into US dollars at the bank. If you're a foreigner, you're not allowed to. It's impossible, right? I mean, if you want to do an overseas transfer, I remember I tried this, okay? So I had money in my bank. I went to the bank, and this is a long time ago. It's gotten a lot harder now. I said I want to transfer, and it was about $1,000 US. So it's not a lot of money. $1,000 US I wanted to transfer to my parents. I had to bring them, first of all, my proof of tax. I had to bring them pay slips for X amount of time. I had to bring them some other bollocks, you know, basically a huge amount of proof that I had to bring in just so I could do a transfer of $1,000 US. It's absolutely ridiculous.
What we used to do is just get Chinese friends. It was that annoying. You just get a Chinese friend to do it because it's much easier for them.
Chinese people don't have to do all that crap.
No. It's getting harder for them too, though, because of capital flight.
Yes.
But it's nowhere near the level of a foreigner.
Absolutely.
That's actually, you know what's funny is that I've been reading and trying to stay up to date on people that are thinking about moving to China to teach English or to work, you know, for a stint. They're like, go in there with the idea that you will make some decent money as opposed to going to Thailand or something.
Sure.
But you have to consider the fact that you might not get your money out if you're trying to leave.
I mean, they can seize the assets of any foreigner if they want.
Yeah, what are you going to take it to court?
Yeah, you can't.
No.
They have done it. In fact, you know when they catch these guys teaching illegally and stuff and deport them or taking drugs, they freeze their bank accounts. So
that's like the first thing
they can't take it's all the money they've earned as being a teacher or whatever.
Right.
They can't take it out. I mean, look, there's a lot of other crap going on when it comes to that sort of thing. But they are definitely not opening up their money policies, and they're supposed to cut down on currency manipulation, but they don't. They can do whatever they want, and they do it all the time.
They just recently manipulated the yuan.
Yeah, of course. They make it worth less so that their exports are easier, you know? All that kind of crap. Anyway, proof that they've reneged on that, okay? What else? They promise to buy more U.S. products, especially like agricultural stuff. Do they? Well,
they kind of need to.
Yeah, but they always come up with excuses not to.
For sure.
You know? They're supposed to be lifting tariffs on certain U.S. goods and stuff. They never do that either. They always walk back on that promise.
The problem is, everyone a lot of people in the chat will be like, no, I read on the news that they said they're going to lift tariffs.
That's what we're saying.
This is the whole point of
They say they're going to do something, but if you do the research, you find out that they never did.
Right.
And if they did, they maybe they put it into writing for a week or something, and then they reneged on it and took it back.
This is the problem, though, is not to go back on the Trump thing.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know enough about U.S. politics to really be commentators. This is why we talk about China,
yeah,
right?
we know more about that.
However, both of these leaders, you know, both Trump and Xi Jinping right now love these token gestures.
Yeah.
Because you know what? They actually work. That's the problem. You can release this grandiose statement and it calms a lot of people down.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the actual analysts that understand this kind of stuff complain about it and everyone's like, oh, it's fine. China and America, they're getting along again. We're solving this. We're good friends. You know?
So that's why we have to get to the meat of this. Fentanyl. Part of this whole trade war crap, China promised to stem the flow of fentanyl and do something about it. Do something about the big amounts of fentanyl getting into the US market illegally and stuff. Because everybody knows it's made in China. Okay, that's where it comes from. So the Chinese government was like, yeah, we'll take care of it. Guess what happened after they made that promise? The Mexican authorities made one of the biggest busts of fentanyl shipments ever. This was right after these promises. Shows you that the promise doesn't mean anything, right? So they made this promise, and then like 2 weeks later, they're like, let's send a big shipment over to the US through our Mexican cartels. It got busted. There was enough fentanyl in that bus to kill every single citizen in America.
Right.
It's ridiculous. That's how much.
This is the thing, though, is that in China, these companies, these chemical companies making fentanyl, this is not an illegal drug, right? So if they have a license to sell a certain amount to a certain hospital or whatever, that's fine. So on paper, China can say, oh, we're going to curb this and stop this, but they're legally allowed to operate within China. Yeah. That's why you don't see a stop.
Yeah.
There's no law that says, oh, we're going to stop all the fentanyl production.
Sure.
So they can just say, oh, blah, blah, verbal diarrhea. Sure. We're going to stop this. It doesn't stop.
So then this will explain a lot about this.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually from like this morning, this news. Obviously, everyone's like, China said they would stop the fentanyl, but they haven't. We keep seeing it cropping up. People are still dying all the time from this stuff. What does China do? This little token thing to keep everyone quiet.
Right.
You know, first of all, it's a US-China operation. The Americans are the ones who went to China and said, hey, look, XYZ people keep freaking doing this. We found who they are. Take care of them. China's like, okay, this is a good opportunity for us to show everyone that we're doing something about it.
Yeah, like look at us symbolically cut the head off the snake. Meanwhile, 99.9% of production is up.
So most people are going to look at this headline and think, oh, look, China's actually doing what it said it's going to do.
That's my issue with American politicians in this sphere.
Yeah.
They're looking at these token gestures and using an American or Western mindset, saying these people are good on their word. Yeah. And the people reading these headlines also have the same idea, and that's not true.
So Trump's going to come out and he's going to say, oh, look, it's working.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? The trade.
We're calling it now.
Yeah, we're calling. He's probably going to come out and say, "Look, China has kept its agreement, so obviously our tariffs or threats of tariffs or whatever are working." No, they're not working. This is China's little trick. And they're going to keep sending fentanyl, and they're probably going to increase sending more fentanyl.
Just to rub it in.
Yeah, because now they feel like they've bought themselves some time
Right.
where they're not going to get scrutinized as much.
Right.
So they're probably going to send double.
This is why China's been allowed to operate with so little scrutiny, is because of these token gestures. For the past 30 years since opening, 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
They say something like, okay, this is an issue. We're totally cracked down on piracy.
Yeah.
No one does anything. No one does. Hey, why didn't you guys do that? Totally, issues change.
Sure.
Something else has cropped up, right?
Exactly.
This is just it's a vicious cycle of shit.
This token crap happens all the time in China, right? When I first got to China, I saw it myself because everyone knows the story that I ran out of money, ended up living in a red light slum, pretty much like what you see in the background here. It's kind of like this kind of vibe,
similar,
right? Very similar. And I was living in one of these buildings, like kind of down one of these alleys type thing, right? Every single establishment there was somehow linked to prostitution in that red light slum, okay? And it was not a secret.
No.
It was, everybody knew.
It's the easiest thing to get in China.
Come into that area specifically from Hong Kong or wherever because they wanted to go visit the brothels and all that kind of crap. All the karaoke.
Cheap and accessible.
Yeah, all the karaoke's and stuff were, all brothels. And occasionally there would be some kind of a government official or some kind of government initiative to say, oh no, we're Wenming, our
Quotas.
city is so civilized and stuff, and we don't have any prostitutes. So what they'd do is they'd come and do one raid. Yeah, they'd do a raid, okay? They'd arrest 50 people because, at any time...
It'd make headlines too.
Yeah, any time, any day you could go there and arrest hundreds of people, engaging in prostitution, okay? And they'd arrest 50 people. Then they'd all make them wear bright yellow t-shirts with saying I'm a prostitute. They'd get the women to wear that I'm a prostitute, and the guys that were caught with them would be like, I solicit prostitutes or whatever. And they'd parade them around. They stopped doing this obviously after a couple of years, but when I first got to China...
Oh, they still shame them in the papers.
They would put them on the back of a truck or whatever and drive them around the city so everyone could see them. Stuff. Yeah, so everyone could see these people. But guess what? After that raid, a day after, all the prostitution started again. Everything's back to normal.
What's funny is that there were still, when the government official comes into town for we are the most cultured city, and everyone shuts down, right?
Yeah.
The ones that get arrested are the ones that were not paying off the right officials, because they'll stay open that day, and those are the ones they pick. All the ones that they're friends with have shut their doors.
Yes.
They got the phone call. They're like, Senator Ho's coming in here.
Yeah.
Let's shut down for the day.
Exactly. I was sitting in Shoko, which is the foreigner hangout, and they have this area, Chicken Street, it's called, which is just full of prostitutes and little brothels.
Chicken means prostitute.
Yeah, chicken.
Right?
G. There's G is and
Genie,
and a yadza means gigolo. Gigolo is a yadza, a duck. Okay, anyway, so I have Chicken Street, and I was sitting there. There was a bar I used to like to go near Chicken Street. It used to be called the Red Rooster, Hongkongji, which was for oil workers or something.
Kind of ironic that it was on Chicken Street.
Yeah, but it was awesome because that was the only place in Shenzhen you could get a real hamburger back then.
Oh, nice.
This is way back.
Yeah, they didn't used to have that.
So I'm having a hamburger. I'm getting drunk with my friend Tyrone and a couple other people, and we just looked down the street. And it used to be funny because we'd always initiate new English teachers to come work for our companies. We'd take them there. We'd get drunk and we'd say, "Oh, can you just go down the road there to fetch something that we left at the end of the street?" Because if you're a white guy and you walk down that street,
or
you
foreigner,
get mobbed by all these mama sons, and the prostitutes literally run out of all these little brothels and grab you by the arm and try to drag you in. So it'd be hilarious. And we filmed, I remember I still get footage of one of the guys we sent down there, and he came running back and he was like, "What's going on here?" Yeah. Anyway, so the thing is, this place is just open prostitution.
Oh yeah, this is anywhere in China.
Sure. But in the middle of the day. So here we are in the middle of the day drinking the drunkards that we are. And all of a sudden, all the shutters go down. Bam, 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 bam.
Hold on, this is the prostitute area of Huizhe.
Oh, okay, over there.
Right. Go ahead.
Anyway, so bam, 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 all the shutters start coming down, locking up. And we're like, what the hell's going on? It looks like a ghost town. Next minute, the cops all turn up and they look around and, they arrest one or two people where they hadn't shut down the shutters. And that's exactly what you're talking about. It's the people that hadn't paid their bribes, the people that weren't in on it and didn't have their Guanxi with the local cops or whatever, the ones that got arrested. Everyone else got forewarned and shut
They always
everything down.
do, because they pay the bribes.
Yeah.
It can get very expensive for places not performing well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
So, I mean,
Anyway.
basically, we're getting back to the whole idea of the token thing. They also do token drug arrests. Maybe you could talk about that a little.
Yeah, so when drugs are not a huge domestic problem in China, like not like in the US, right? The problem is you have border regions, especially in Yunnan and even in Guangdong, in the lower income areas, specifically in the places where the government, like kind of like these buildings, the government will go into a village like this, give them a very small stipend for their property, knock it down, and put them somewhere else.
Sure.
So whatever job, agricultural job they had is gone now. They have nothing to do. They live off of very little money.
Sure.
Drugs become an issue, particularly meth and heroin, right?
Yeah.
Now, when that becomes too big of an issue, when it becomes too visible, China loses face, right? Or their city loses face, people come up with initiatives. So they will bust entire towns in production of illicit drugs, but only when they are making them for the domestic market, right? Because then it's like, oh, they were hurting our own people. Your kids were affected. Your neighbor was affected, you know?
It's the stupid hypocrisy. Anyway, so that was the whole point, really, of our Soft Power Hour, is to talk about this bust that you may read about in the news. Remember, this is just a bullshit little exercise to try and pretend as if something's being done. This does not
Let's
mean...
watch fentanyl deaths over the next couple of years. We'll see.
This does not mean anything has changed.
No, it means nothing. Nine jailed.
9 out of 400,000 chemical factories.
How many people are in each one?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about millions of people.
Yeah, millions of people are involved in this trade. It's making billions of dollars for the Chinese government. Why would they want to stop it? You know?
I hate news like this. Because if you've lived in China, you understand how it operates. Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, shall we get into some questions?
Let's get some questions, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
Cool. Sean Wyland says, Langford's criticism of TikTok would justify why the CCP doesn't want Chinese citizen data harvested on Facebook, Twitter, Google too, NSA as has Prism. I guess the CCP would kind of use that to their favor and be like, well, it's a whataboutism.
It is whataboutism.
Yeah, you guys do too, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the difference is there's actual legal recourse. If Facebook, sells your data or whatever, they have to answer to it. That's why you see Mark Zuckerberg sitting in like the whatever, what do you call it, Senate or Parliament or whatever here?
Yeah, that was in the UK, wasn't it?
No, here.
Oh, the most recent one you're talking about, yeah.
He's always being called up on his bollocks, right? Whereas in China, nobody would answer to anything. Nope. So it's different, but yes, that would be the reasoning.
Stinky Dinkins says, is it possible China is exporting fake booze to the US? I bought a bottle of Jack Daniels and after drinking it, almost shat my britches. Counterfeit? While it probably does exist, I think it would be very, very easy to catch because...
Would it?
I think so. I mean, all imports. Why would import...
Riddle me this. Why is it that we ordered strong zeros from Japan and they got sent here in the mail?
This is true.
Okay.
This is true.
We were missing our favorite drink from Japan and we just went on eBay and bought a whole bunch from a random Japanese guy.
This is very true. But I think it wouldn't be super lucrative. If you're getting a crate of Jack Daniels, it's probably going to be looked at.
Yeah.
Why would it be coming from China?
No, that's true.
But there is potential, for sure.
There's potential, but obviously I don't think it's a big thing, just like
No.
Right.
Okay, we'll do one more. Josema Fernandez Barrera says, I'm now at the Haigang Loop in Vietnam. Best place I've been on a bike. Take note. Is awesome and still not touristic. Stay awesome, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, next time we're in Vietnam.
Haigang is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on?
Let's move on to our next Guanxi Corner, where we talk about things relationship related to people in China and China, etc., etc. So let's see, is this going to be another one of someone having a relationship issue with marriage or something?
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, all right, let's go for it.
This one's, sorry, I'm opening it up here. Hey guys, this isn't specifically a romantically related question. Well, I guess that answers you.
Good.
But I'm trying to learn Chinese and make Chinese friends, but they seem pretty unapproachable and shy. Any advice? Thanks, Jorge. Jorge.
Yeah, good question. That's actually very easy.
Okay.
Chinese students especially, I presume that this guy's like a student.
I don't know.
Well, either way, if you go into a campus anywhere in the world, I saw it in South Africa, you'll see it in Australia, you'll see it everywhere. Chinese students do stick together. They tend to only speak Chinese to each other. They are very standoffish. It's very difficult to get into their circle of friends. And it's because of the way they've been brought up. It's this nonsense that gets fed to them by the CCP. They don't want to break out of their circles because they're either too uncomfortable to do it, they're too afraid to do it. They think that they're going to get into trouble if they do it, especially from their friends are going to look down on them. Wada. Oh, you dare date a British, that kind of thing. So I think what you need to do, very simply, is you learn a little bit of Chinese, just a little bit. That's all you need, like ni hao or, ni chi fan le mei, something like that. And then you approach them and you just speak to them in that little bit of Chinese. I think you'll be surprised at how welcoming they are.
Oh, for sure. They'll be super nice. Yeah. The mainlanders that I've made friends with in America that speak good English and don't conform to it, especially students.
Yeah.
I met a lot of them at subscriber meetups. They're the people, unfortunately, that don't want to. They're trying to get out of that cycle of things. So they're not going to be as apt to want to speak Chinese and stuff. They're trying to speak English,
Yeah.
They're trying to, which I really appreciate. I think integration is awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much, Troy.
Honestly, just a little bit of Chinese, because he's talking about the standoffish groups.
I understand.
And if you want to get into that, just learn a bit of Chinese.
For sure.
It goes a hell of a long way, That's how I made most of my friends in China. Is they hear you speaking a little bit of Chinese and they're like, "Oh wow, your Chinese is so good." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Or they get super paranoid.
Do you just tell the story about when you went to the Chinese restaurant?
The Japanese restaurant.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I was in Ithaca, New York, and I was there with my family. We were looking at the cliffs and gorges and stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw this Japanese restaurant, and you know what happens when you see an ice cold Asahi sign.
Yes.
You know what happens. You gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta have a drink.
They had the steel cans.
Oh, nice.
So I go in there, and the first thing I hear is Chinese. Right. So I sit down. I'm like, you guys aren't really Japanese, are you? Kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
You learn how to make sushi, and the guy's wife bolts to the back of the restaurant, opens this big metal door and slams it shut, and he kind of shuffles off, and he's like, then he comes back a little bit later and he's like, how do you speak Chinese? And I explained, I was like, oh, I live there, and he's like, oh, it's okay, you can come out. They thought I was immigration.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Anyway,
a couple more questions, I guess.
Yeah.
Sean Cosgrove says, just discovered you guys a few weeks ago. I've been learning a lot. Thanks from Minnesota.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man.
Thank you very
Always
much.
glad to help.
Don't you know? John Ritter, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Sorry. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. The force shall free me. Nice.
Is that some kind of Star Wars thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Isn't that Donnie Yen did that?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a Hong Kong actor. Very cool kung fu guy.
He who wears pants with $50. Thank you very much. Mwahaha, you cannot escape the Wu Mao Dang. Wait, am I doing this right?
Only if you times it by 5,000 or something.
Right. The difference is you actually donated a very sizable amount of money, which Wu Mao would never do.
Thanks, mate. We really appreciate
that.
Okay.
Daniel P. with $50 as well. Thank you, guys.
Amazing.
Thanks again, as always. No, thank you very much. The only reason that we can do this, to be honest, because we get demonetized all the time.
Absolutely.
This is not a complaint, by the way. I'm sick of these complaining.
Sure.
But anyway.
We'll do it anyway, even if they keep demonetizing us. We'll just keep doing it. Let's move on to our last one, which is worldview. We talk about everything in the world, especially if it's related to China. So we actually have something very recent in the news when it comes to worldview. I'm just going to have to bring it up here. I have to find the little thing for us to look at. There it is, and let's switch over. Can you read that headline?
China is hungry for Australian beef, but every second kilo shoppers buy could be fake. Sounds a bit clickbaity, but just interesting content.
Basically, Australian beef is very popular in China. I remember every time, in fact, I can see this Wagyu beef, whatever.
I have to ask you though, why is Australian beef popular?
Because, there's no beef in China. It's all freaking shui niu.
Right, well, very little.
Yeah.
But number two is because in retaliation for something America did, they banned beef. They
banned beef
imports, saying it was mad cow disease.
Yeah.
So then they changed it used to be American beef, beef, and then now it's all Australian beef. You see that flag everywhere in China.
Exactly. It's Australian beef. Yeah, really it is. And also, you probably find out that Chinese corporations probably own a lot of the farms in Australia now.
Absolutely, they do.
So the money's going back to China.
I knew a lot of wine company owners, Chinese ones, even in Inner Mongolia, that had vineyards in Australia and New Zealand.
Just remember, Australia belongs to China,
really
including their beef. Anyway, when you go to a posh supermarket or something, in the mixed sea, Olay or something like that, or Jasco, whatever, you will see very often like Australian beef, like that.
Yeah.
And people love it because they see it and they see, okay, it's from Australia. That means, first of all, it's probably not poison. It's not going to kill me or my family.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the meat and stuff in China is suspect.
For as proud as Chinese people are about Chinese domestic goods, why do they have to label everything as not from China? Even made in Taiwan is an accolade in China, which is hilarious.
Yeah, no,
irony.
Is.
But anyway.
Well, because they're realistic, they're pragmatic.
Of course, they don't want their family
That's
to
the
hurt.
thing is, Chinese people, they love China, but they're not stupid. They realize that because they know what's going on. Okay, they don't take chances. Too many bad things have happened, and they keep happening. That's the problem. There's always these scandals, and
That's
it
why
ends
milk
up.
powder happens.
Yeah,
yeah,
it always ends up that Chinese people get hurt in the end. So they're like, screw this. We're sick and tired of getting screwed over by our own people.
Right.
So let's buy stuff from overseas. So what you find is a lot of fake overseas stuff. I remember going into the supermarket and you pick up a shampoo or something and it's got random Japanese or Korean written on it. Doesn't make any sense. Or even random English.
Right.
Just because people are tricked into thinking it's a foreign product. They pick it up. Oh, it's got English on it. It must be from overseas. Meanwhile,
it'll say
it's just
American crackers in Chinese, and it looks like a foreign brand on the back. It's like the boy jumped over the lazy brown fox.
Exactly.
Like on the back.
Ipsum, lipsum, whatever.
Yeah.
Some bollocks like that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I love that.
Anyway, that's how it goes. But anyway, obviously, Australia keeps records of how much beef is being exported to America. I mean, not America, to
Australia.
to China.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they find out that 90% more of what they're sending is being sold. So basically,
almost double.
190% of Australian beef is being sold there. So that means, does that make any more sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, what I'm saying is 90% more than what they're sending is being sold as Australian beef. So basically, what's happening is people are labeling stuff as that's what they do in China. They're very good at making fake stuff. Everybody knows that. It's super. They've got factories there that can vacuum seal, label, put a barcode, put whatever you want to make a product look incredibly real when it's fake.
Of course.
So what they're doing is they're using horse meat. They're using random.
Wouldn't horse meat be way more expensive?
I don't think so.
Why?
I don't know.
Horses are a lot harder to cultivate than cows.
Well, who knows?
Huh?
Maybe it's
expired horse meat.
Who knows? Anyway, they are selling expired meat or suspect meat or different kinds of meat that's been chemically treated to look like beef. We've seen this a lot. Where they take
they take and stuff.
Random meats
Skunk.
and they basically put chemicals in it to make it taste like lamb and sell it as lamb.
Yep. That was like skunks and foxes, I think, were being labeled as lamb.
Yeah, and
recently
rats.
Rats too,
Yeah.
instead of pigeons and stuff, because that's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
The most recent one is because of the pork shortage.
Yeah.
They're using the cold dogs that they steal off the streets, chemically treating it to look like pork, and now dog meat's showing up as pork.
Yeah, it's weird.
So this is not weird.
Yeah, or they sell the diseased pork meat.
Yeah, like 30-year-old.
Yeah, remember they found that World War II ration frozen meats, and they bought it really cheap, and they ended up selling it. Anyway, this is just something to just show you the lengths to which they're willing to go, and it's a big thing now because obviously Australian beef is something that people have trusted for so long.
Yeah.
And now it turns out that probably 50% of all the Australian beef you've bought is fake. So you just can't trust that anymore.
Who knows what it is, right?
Yeah, so for all those Lao Wai in China who go down to Carrefour or wherever you go and you see Australian beef, don't trust it, man.
That's the thing is, like, you can go to the most trusted chain you've ever been to. You're talking about posh markets earlier, right? Supermarkets and stuff. We used to go to Walmart and still get fake alcohol.
Yeah.
Like it's that deep, the corruption.
McDonald's and KFC ended up selling expired meat, remember? And that was because their Chinese supply chain was, corrupt. It wasn't like the managers, they chose the right thing, but then the actual company that supplies the meat, they took shortcuts and then they went and found some expired meat and reused stuff. And so, it's...
This is one of the many common cases where this is not about foreigners necessarily. This really sucks for Chinese people.
Absolutely.
Just getting duped by their own products all the time.
That's the thing. When we make all these statements about this, I think a lot of people take you and me as being very anti-Chinese. But
why would we care?
The reason why we're making these kind of videos and exposing this and telling people about it is because it affects bloody Chinese people. Do you understand that we have Chinese family? Okay? We have Chinese friends and family living in China.
We talk to them every day.
Yeah. We have a lot of friends who are Chinese. Do you think we like the fact that our friends and family are being subject to all this crap? You know? This is
medical scandals, food scandals, all this stuff.
When my father-in-law has to go in for a surgical procedure or something, I don't want him having fake drugs.
No, because
having to bribe people.
Because my friend's wife had to pay a bribe, and it wasn't enough to the doctor, so they broke the baby's arm.
Yeah.
You know, just so they pay more. Yeah.
I mean, it's really freaking annoying, the kind of crap that goes on, and it affects everyone in China. The worst part is that all these rabid nationalists see a foreigner pointing out these problems, and all of a sudden they see us as an enemy. Meanwhile, we care about Chinese people.
Enough to make change, unlike you.
Yeah.
So shut the hell up.
So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to get to. And it's time for our last section today, which of course is our Q&A.
Yes.
Where we answer questions.
Oh, thank you
that come from Super Chat and elsewhere.
I hate how this Snapdragon. Okay, Sean Weiland says, Rat Park experiment explains addiction behavior. Thank you.
Okay.
Trevor travels the world. That sounds like a YouTube channel almost. I got back from Hong Kong on Monday, leaving again tomorrow. The police are out of control, or should I say the undercover PLA. Yes. Security clearance needs to be redone. I had TS when I was in the ARNGSF 86 form and the one interview with FBI.
That doesn't mean a whole lot.
Well, to us, I don't understand that. But I think I know what you're saying. And yes, thank you very much. And number 2, a little teaser, we made a very, very special episode the other day from a very special place about this very thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, TS, top clearance security.
Oh,
maybe?
yeah. Probably, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Sean Weiland, again, you're on fire. Unrestricted warfare, CCP's fentanyl goal. Yes.
Look, they basically don't see any problem with sending these drugs overseas because the CCP and the whole of China has this chip on its shoulder about the Opium Wars. I mean, the title of this whole thing is China's Opium War Revenge. And
you should rephrase that as the CCP uses it to make people have a chip on their shoulder.
Every single time you bring up something about, look at the situation, it's not healthy, they'll be like, well, the rest of the world for 200 years took advantage of China with the Opium Wars. They came in and did all these bad things. It's super tiresome. I'm so sick and tired of that crap because who took the damn drugs, okay? Let's just put it out that way. Who gave the drugs? Certainly not me. Certainly not you. It's dead men from a long time ago. A lot of weak, crappy people in the past did this. It's got nothing to do with what we're dealing today.
You didn't get the opium. I didn't give it to you.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with us, and every measure has been put in place to not allow something like that happen.
Even my great-grandfather wasn't around when this shit was going on. No. It's so freaking annoying that they use this as a justification for bad behavior. Right. And this is something I see as well. You know, I made a video about how China's destroying Africa through all these things like strip mining and everything. Everyone's like, how's a white guy going to talk about that because of colonialism and all that crap? It's ridiculous that people will try to make excuses for this bad behavior because of some crap that dead men did hundreds of years ago.
And people have learned from these things. That's the most important thing. It's not like gonna happen again.
No.
Right?
It's happening now.
Right.
What we're talking about is happening now. People are dying on the streets in America and elsewhere because this fentanyl crap is coming out of China. Okay?
I mean, addiction again is another thing to address, but this is the biggest, most potent weapon that they're using.
Yeah.
Right? It's not some very innocuous street drug. This is hardcore stuff.
Well, it's the fact that it's so cheap and easy. So these wanker zombies get their hands on this stuff easily, and it kills them. I don't know why I'm complaining so much because I don't like those zombie guys, but I don't like the fact that they...
Right, but you understand that a lot of those people were normal before this. Yes, they fell on hard times, but talk about trying to get out of addiction. This makes it nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I get it, and it's really freaking annoying. So we have to keep talking about this, and from my point of view, the main important part is the hypocrisy.
Yes,
the fact that the Chinese government is dealing in drugs, something that they execute people for, pisses me off. Once again, execute yourself.
Nice.
Anyway, sorry.
Kane... Somebody did take that out of context. By the way, when you said strip mine, I got excited, and then I realized it's not as cool as it sounds.
It's horrible.
Kane Ravenlock.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's a cool name, by the way.
Yeah.
From Norway. Question, what is the name of the drug people buy in the apothecary before going to a big club? You know, those ones who only drink iced tea and sodas. Most people in those clubs in China use ketamine.
Yes.
But you're not going to be able to buy that in the apothecary. They're probably buying some sort of amphetamine. There's lots of amphetamines being sold. They're legal with prescription, but you know how lax they are in China. You don't even need a pharmacist license to operate a pharmacy.
Yeah. Well, you kind of do. My wife being a doctor, those of you who don't know, my wife's a doctor. I've talked to her about this, and, she says that it's a struggle because the way Chinese society works is you get like an old person coming in there and saying, I want my pills. I want X amount of pills. And they're like, you can't. Okay, we can only prescribe X amount. Then they'll start to make a scene. Oh, but the other doctor would give it to me. And like, they get all angry with you. It creates a whole thing. So, actually a lot of doctors are too weak-willed to stand up to this crap because they just give it out. It does happen a lot. But you do get, luckily, people like my wife who refuse to do it. It causes trouble, and you'll have like big scenes being caused in the hallways of the clinics and stuff. But they do try to control like flu medicine and stuff because it contains, pseudoephedrine and shit like that. But that doesn't mean that you can't just get it through.
That's what I was trying to say is that, yes, it's nice that people are doing that. But I've been to these little clandestine pharmacies. You can get whatever you want, dude.
Yeah, it is true because I remember I was with Pete and he needed some Hey Bye, that stuff. It's like the black and white pills for when it's like flu medicine. It also got pseudoephedrine or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, the thing is, we needed an ID to buy it, but like because we couldn't. Well, I could speak Chinese fine, but he couldn't, and I kind of just let him deal with it because she was like ID. So I said to him in English because I was like his translator, and I just told him, just show your passport or whatever. He's like, no, I don't have my passport. So she was just like, these damn foreigners, I can't understand. Fine, I'll just. I'll just give it to you.
Now imagine that with something much more potent.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. Brendan Goodnaw says, great content, guys. I appreciate you guys helping us break our Western mindsets of Chinese actions and see the BS that the CCP is putting out in the media. Thank you very much. And that's literally the only thing we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's why we do this. I mean, if we were to just stand by and kind of carry on with our lives and do our motorcycle stuff,
guilty.
I am so sick and tired of these lies and this crap and the fact that people actually buy it.
Right.
So, as much as I love the Chinese people, what the Chinese government is doing, I'm not going to stand by. I'm not going to stand by and let them do that.
Elk X says, "Do you watch China Uncensored?" Oh, we do occasionally. Yes.
China Uncensored is. People think I've got some kind of a beef with China Uncensored. I don't.
No.
I've always just been, especially living in China, you can't be that biased. It is a very biased channel. It's very simple what they're trying to do. I'm not saying that what is being covered on China Uncensored is wrong.
No.
In fact, I can agree with everything that's being said. There is one big difference, however, and that is experience. Like the China Uncensored crew have never lived in China.
No, it's a fine way to condense headlines, though. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, yeah.
No.
But having lived for 14 and a half years in China and being married to Chinese family and stuff, it gives you a more of an experienced idea of what's going on.
Sure.
But at the same time, I agree with what China Uncensored says a lot of the time. Yeah.
Sarah,
we're going to get together at some point anyway. Yeah.
Sarah J. Jacobson says, Winston, your hair is looking thicker lately. What happened? Did you stop drinking 1-to-1 snake venom and Pepto-Bismol?
Pretty much.
You did.
No joke. Since I left China, my hair started to grow more. And also, I stopped cutting my hair myself. And also, Chinese barbers don't know how to cut Western hair. They don't understand because Chinese hair is different.
I'd say that's the biggest reason, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've actually been turned away at barbers because they're like... They're nice, but they're like, I don't know your foreign hair.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Chinese people have the same hair.
Sure, it's
genetically,
black,
right?
Yeah.
You do get people that have thicker hair. Some people have thinner hair, etc. But it's all straight and it's all black, and it's very easy to deal with if that's all you've trained for. So you get someone with a bit of thick hair, is a bit curly, different color and different texture, and they're like, "What the hell is this?"
As someone who's always kept like longer hair, than someone like you.
Yeah.
I've always been so jealous of Chinese people's hair because they can do anything they want with it. You can put it up, you put it down. It's never messy.
Yeah, It's nice. Amazing. It's nice hair. I do have a video about going to a hairdresser.
We both do.
Yeah, and I actually filmed the whole thing. I put a GoPro up on the mirror and stuff. And that barber I used to go to a lot. He was pretty okay. He was okay, but he did make me look bald.
Nice. On mine, I filmed the whole massage thing and everything.
Oh, nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Tender Cordy. Chinese economy is just a bunch of bubbles being propped up by government loans. Also, there is this cute Chinese girl at a cafe I eat at, but she just looks down when I try to talk to her. How do I get her to be my red queen? Don't harass her, dude.
Yeah,
Come on.
Isn't that considered stalking or something?
If she's like ignoring you gotta back off.
Learn some Chinese.
Just learn a little Chinese. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Learn a few phrases, man.
Yeah, that's it. And don't be like, oh, you look great today or something. Just be like, how you doing? You know, like.
Wow, like... No,
don't do that. Jeez.
Of course not. That's what I'm saying. You should.
Yeah. Thank you for. Yeah.
Exactly.
Edward Berry, ADV podcast. Hopefully, one day I'll be able to visit a meetup, maybe an ADV podcast exclusive meetup. God bless. Cool beans. Thanks, man.
Hey, you know what you should learn is you should learn how to say "Nietzsche fan la mei."
Yeah, while she's eating.
Well, no, at the cafe she's not eating, but "Nietzsche fan la ma" or "Nietzsche fan la mei" means "Have you eaten?" and it's basically the standard greeting.
Yeah, it's really non-personal.
So it's something, and I think, and I could be wrong, but I think it comes from the fact that everyone was starving to death recently in history. So it's kind of like a way to check: Are you okay? Have you eaten?
Right.
You know, are you all right?
I'm gonna throw, not to go back to this guy's comment, throw another caveat in here. What if she's not even Chinese and you're walking up being like speaking?
You could really insult someone.
Pretty
it's
bad.
True.
Maybe just try saying hi and don't be a stalker.
Very true. But if he does know that she is Chinese.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just give it a shot.
I
don't like giving people dating advice.
Neither do I.
No.
I'm not a dater.
No. Comrade General with NT. Cool. Taiwan.
Okay.
Many countries, including Taiwan, are expanding wind and solar, but 90% of rare earths used in magnets and PV cells are mined in China. I find this under-discussed in climate policy discussions. Thoughts? #nuclear green. Agreed. And thankfully, they're trying to expand a lot of operations to Texas, where there are a lot of
rare earths.
Yeah, rare earths. So hopefully, they find some more sources.
Yeah. Just learn how to use common earths in electronics.
Common earths are way better. They're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Air, dirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson. My SO is a mainlander. If she and I want to live in the ROC long term someday, what would be the biggest obstacle for her? Is the best option to become American like me if she's willing? 100% easy. You guys can move there. As a mainlander, I've met mainland people that have moved to Taiwan by marrying Taiwanese people, but it was such a hassle.
Super difficult.
So
it's super difficult.
It's
get her to become a U.S. citizen if possible.
Much easier.
And then you can go together, no issue.
Yeah. Kane Ravenlock again. Yeah. They were just calling it Yao. Yao is speed. So I wasn't sure what drug they were taking.
Yeah.
I went back to the pharmacy to pick it up, or pretended to pick it up there. Yep, that's speed. And last one again with Kane Ravenlock with a funny little emoji. Cool.
Fantastic, guys. So let's get one or two questions from the usual chat.
Let me scroll up real quick.
While we do, I'd like to talk about what's going on in the background here. This area is called Shajing. It's kind of on the outskirts of Shenzhen. And I used to go there a lot because I actually used to train doctors in a hospital there, the Shajing Hospital. It was a hospital that specialized in hand surgery, believe it or not.
Right.
And that's because there are a lot of factories in the area. And so, people, it was actually quite disturbing because every time I go in there to train these doctors, I would see people walking with mangled hands, because they get their hands stuck in the machinery or severed hands and stuff. And they were specialized, in fact, very well known around pretty much the whole of Shenzhen. I don't know if it's the whole country, but as the best hand surgeons. So if you had a hand problem, you'd go to the Shajing Hospital to get your hand fixed up. It's kind of interesting.
It is. I hear a lot of the word hand being thrown around here.
My cousin married someone whose surname was Hand.
Really?
Yeah, her surname was Hand, Mrs. Hand. Well, Miss Hand, I guess.
We used to, when you're a kid and you just randomly prank call people when you're like 10.
Yeah.
We called this guy named John Hand, but we called him Hand John. We'd be like, hey, Hand John, did you get a Hand John lately? That's what we did when we were 10 years old.
Yeah.
Someone said, why is sea milk always sunburnt? I'm just very red.
It's weird.
You're very yellow.
I don't get it.
Not in real life.
No. It's weird because we kind of look the same almost in real life, but cameras pick us up differently.
It's the light or something.
When we were shooting CNC and CSC, the producers were really pissed off about that when they were trying to color grade.
Yeah, color grade.
It's like sea milk's always red and I'm always green or yellow or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
bizarre how that happens, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these are just nuts. Okay. I'm not Chinese, but I shop at Asian supermarkets. Does that count? Honorary citizen.
Yeah, there we go.
Asian supermarkets are good, though. Honestly, that's like really big blessing.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you just can't, get. It's interesting. It's now the opposite, because when I was in China, I would always try to find Western goods, and it would be impossible to find.
Right.
But here, actually, that's a good point. We're starved of that kind of stuff in China, but here you're not.
Right.
You can go to like 99 Ranch or whatever it is, and you can literally get everything that you would ever want, Chinese-wise. You can find the sauce grandmother used to make. You can find the pigfoot,
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, the pigfoot sauce that, you
in a lot of the families that own the smaller ones, like even in small towns where I'm from, they'll have stuff only from their hometown in China, because they can like get family members, ship it over, and then sell it. It's actually really cool.
It's crazy. You can get everything. So yeah, I like that. It's definitely made my wife a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and I like going there too.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I mean, they're mostly just comments.
I can talk about this. This is the Red Sea thing. Did that get cut out of?
It did, yeah. But we made a whole episode about it in ADVChina.
We did.
It's called "Even the Sea is Red" in China.
Even the Sea is Red.
It's a really good
in
episode.
You should
by the way.
check. Oh, this is Shaji. By the way, this building.
Me and you are chilling on this.
Can you guess how old this building is?
Oh yeah, let's poll the audience.
Everybody guess how old that building is.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch the chat for a second. Okay.
Okay.
So you talk about this area for a second. I'm gonna see.
Again, this is near to Xiaojing, like it's on the outskirts of Shenzhen, and I used to love.
It might be older than you think.
Love walking around here, and like seriously, how old do you think this building is?
Okay, so we're getting a lot of people. 50 years, 12 years, 34 years, 20 years, 7 years, 100 years, 15 years, 1950, 5 years, 6 months, 5 years, 50 years, 1 year.
Okay, they're actually kind of close. It was
1976.
It was that's what it was. 1976.
Yeah. So that building to me looked and it's supposed to be like this cultural preservation site.
It's kind of not really, but there's like ancient. You can
but they have those blue plate signs in there.
Oh right, yeah. So you walk down in these ancient village kind of things, and it all looks like it's old and stuff, but it's like 19.
Yeah, it's like ancient. But the thing is, like, my father-in-law took us to a village one time.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was like, "You guys aren't gonna believe. You don't have this in your countries."
Yeah.
He was being nice.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys don't have this kind of stuff in your countries. This is some ancient Chinese culture, and we're like, what? They just look like pigsty, brick buildings. And he's like, these are from the 1960s. Yeah. They weren't destroyed. We were like,
what? Yeah. It's supposed to be an ancient village.
Beard grew up in a house in Scotland from the 1700s. Yeah. That was a house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know more than 100-year-old houses in South Africa, in Cape Town, that I grew up in and stuff.
Yeah. So it's quite common. New York City as well.
Cool.
Anyway, I think we're going to cut it off here, guys.
We are.
Stay tuned for this coming ADVChina. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that together tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else lined up for the week?
Well, tomorrow you can catch. I have a live stream where I'm going to be discussing a specific video and a specific thing about just a societal ill in China. Mm-hmm. Something that it has a happy ending.
Okay.
But it's something that I would like us to talk about. So.
If you guys go to my channel, ADVChina, the video I put out yesterday is about the how China's morality, kind of some of the stuff we talked about.
Yeah. It's going to tie in.
Yeah, so very similar topics. Mm-hmm. On Monday, you guys can check out ADVChina, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and the live stream tomorrow on my channel is going to be the same as this, 3 p.m.
Okay.
PST.
PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, good. So we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We really appreciate your support. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Until then, you know the drill. As always, hang on. Let me try. I always cut myself off here. Stay awesome.